evening. Welcome to the February 21st Health and Human Services Committee meeting. If there is anybody from the public that would wish to come forward and speak, this would be your opportunity to do so.
Good evening. My name is Anita Seyfried-Baun. I'm the project director for the Alliance for Better Communities, which is a drug-free community-funded coalition, and I live and work in Watertown. I handed out an informational packet regarding the legalization of recreational marijuana. And I will be very brief in my comments and walk you through. If you would please join me on page 3. As of August 18, 2018, there are 9 states plus the District of Columbia with state-approved personal use of marijuana laws. New York State is state-approved for decriminalization and for medical use of substances. Overall, in the United States, 62.9% or 204.4 million Americans have access to marijuana in either medical or recreational marijuana form. Please join me on page 4. The number of participants by grade.
Anita,
Sir?
if I may stop you for a second.
Yes.
Which page are you looking at?
Oh, sorry, the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Right there.
Now we're all on the same page.
Okay. In your packet, you will find the PowerPoint as well as a brief summary of the proposed New York State marijuana legalization. Okay. On page 4, you will find the number of youth who participated throughout the years in the prevention needs assessment survey, so we can have a pretty good idea that our data is a valid data set for quantitative data collection. If you join on page 5, please, it will give you by year 2015, 2017, and 2018 for grades 7 through 12, the usage of marijuana past 30 days, which measures regular use by students in Jefferson County. And as you can see, the increases really occur in 11th and 12th grade, but certainly we as prevention professionals, we are concerned about any marijuana use by young people. On page 6, peer disapproval for grades 7 through 12, you will find that we measure disapproval for both drinking, smoking, cigarettes, marijuana, and for pharmaceuticals, prescribed medications. And while there is a decrease between grade 7 and 12 for all substances, we feel that the positive environment created by the marijuana legalization conversations has really depressed the perception of peer disapproval significantly at 41.7%. On page 7, it gives a summary of perception of parental disapproval. These are answers that youth feel how their parents would disapprove of their usage. Okay? Again, while there is some erosion in the perception of parental disapproval, the erosion is the highest for marijuana at 16.3%, and again, it is. We feel it is the talk about marijuana which creates that positive environment for both youth and adults to feel that marijuana use is not potentially harmful. On page 8, I gave you a very brief summary about the subjective effects of marijuana on the user, and I'm not going to spend any much more time on that. On page 9, you will find the objective marijuana use effects, and of course, the higher the level of THC is, the more pronounced are the cognitive and the psychomotor performances impairments. Unlike alcohol use, for marijuana use, there are no safe use guidelines. There are no delineations as to what constitutes regular use, heavy use, or very heavy use. With alcohol, we know the drinking guidelines, which for women is no more than 1 standard drink per hour, no more than 1 drink per day for females or 2 for males, and unfortunately there are no such guidelines for marijuana use. On page 10, just gave you a very brief overview of the psychological, the physiological effects of marijuana, including dependence, heart issues, bloodshot eyes, schizophrenia, and so forth. The last one is a motivational syndrome, which basically means the person is kind of chilling out significantly. As soon as marijuana use stops and marijuana is out of the body, THC is out of the body, a motivational syndrome will disappear. On page 11, the impact on the environment. Unfortunately, there are no good data sets yet that definitively speak to this very issue. The best I could glean, and I will get in touch with Cornell, although I have checked the Cornell University website and there's simply not good data available yet. But from Colorado, it seems that there is increased water usage, increased pesticide usage, water runoff, and with it the incumbent pollution of rivers and streams and the impact on fishing industry. On page 12, overall points about legalization. It is commercially for profit, which many people believe that is moving too fast to legalize without taking into account the incumbent costs. Marijuana is much more potent today than it was in the past. Hemp, for example, has less than 3% THC. Marijuana, cultivated marijuana, can have as much as 50 and 60 and percent of THC, and hashish oils going up into the 90s and 95%. On page 13, I listed the legalization of marijuana in Colorado, its impact reports, the most recent one from September 2018, as well as the web address. I invite you to check out the impact statement, which is extraordinarily comprehensive. We, on page 14, know the cost of legalization, and those are, this slide is mostly based on Colorado and other states that have legalized recreational marijuana. The increased cost for emergency and hospital admissions for marijuana-related issues, the potency and price trends in legal and illegal markets, and the rest you can look through. If I may direct your attention in the summary to bullet number, I believe it's 35. It is not. The bullet number is 31. The fund shall annually disburse $1 million to a loan fund for marijuana businesses, and it goes on and on, as well as $1 million to SUNY to research the legalization of marijuana, including health effects and costs. The Alliance, as well as many other individuals, feel that perhaps that money should be spent prior to legalization, so we have a very good understanding with education in mind of what we're buying into by following legalization. Thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is very informative. So it's interesting, your approach there would be very much common sense that, yeah, you should fund how good or bad this is before just saying, let's
rather
do this.
Than finding out later.
Right,
yes,
but you know, as far as the mechanism goes, the state wants the money first and then they'll disperse it, so in typical fashion. So.
Okay.
And the lack of data that you mentioned, that's deplorable. That
right. There is
not just New York, but any state should
right.
be.
Well, there is plenty of data on the impact, how it impacts the individuals in the various states. I'd be more than happy to share that full data set with this committee at another time. However, there is no good data as to the environmental impact. You know, and I thought it was particularly germane to bring that concern to this room, simply because we are so dependent on agriculture and of the health of our rivers, fields, and streams. Thank you.
I suppose it would be a curious thing if it's organic marijuana. Is it going to cost more, and is it going to be healthier for you?
It will be eaten by insects. Apparently, it's a plant that is very attractive to insects. Thank you.
Isn't that a side effect to have a hunger?
The side effect of what?
Isn't that a side effect of the whole thing, is they have a hunger, so naturally they eat more of it? So.
Probably, yes.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
Moving on, is there any changes to the minutes from last month's committee meeting? Seeing none, we'll go forward into the resolutions.
First resolution this evening is amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate district funding for the Office of Aging.
Have a motion? Mr. Drake, second. Mr. Ferris. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Next is amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate funds and accepting additional 2019 funding for Veterans Peer Support Program.
Mrs. Fitzpatrick, is there a second? Mr. Drake? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate federal Medicaid administration reimbursement for the Community Services Department.
A motion, please. Mr. Dodo, second. Mr. Nabawanek. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate district funding for Community Services Department.
Mrs. Fitzpatrick, second. Mr. Doldo. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Next is authorizing funding in connection with the New York State Department of Health Local Health Department Performance Incentive Initiative and amending the 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
A motion, please. Mr. Doldo, second. Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the commencement of litigation by Jefferson County for the purpose of recovering costs associated with the provision of public benefits and services associated with opioid abuse and opioid-addicted individuals.
A motion. Mr. Doldo, second. Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Carried. That would be the conclusion of our resolutions for this evening. We have some departmental reports. The DSS report will be within our next packet. I believe that they were closing up the books for the previous year, so she's very active with that at this point in time. So, is there anything further to come before the committee this evening? One thing just as a consideration and to reflect on as far as the health and welfare of our community is that it has certainly been an interesting year thus far of legislation coming out of Albany, and even in the last 2 days, another piece of legislation to decriminalize prostitution for sex workers. So, yes. So if you have a shop like what was just raided in Miami, it could be legal within New York State if that legislation passes. It definitely behooves those of us within leadership and those of us that are within the public to really stop and consider the actions that are, and frankly, in my opinion, quite reckless of what's happening and concerning people and the welfare of our state. So it's just another thing that is happening very quickly, and we're out of the majority and out of the discussion, and there's not much that we can do to stop it other than, just reinforce what our values are within our communities, just to make you aware. So, if there isn't anything further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Dodo, second, Mr. Ferris. All in favor?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll offer the floor to, first to Finance Committee members and then to any other board members who would like to ask questions. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Executive Director Kevin Jordan from Cornell Cooperative Extension.
Thank you. I have a PowerPoint, only six brief slides, but if I may. All right. All set, thanks. All right. Well, I want to first thank you all for the opportunity to come and present tonight. In my 7.5 years at Cooperative Extension, I have had the pleasure of working with Carolyn Fitzpatrick as our legislative representative, but also over the years I've had the opportunity to work with many of you on different committees out in the community, and always appreciate the opportunity to come and present. What I want to do is take about 10 minutes to give an overview of what Cooperative Extension is. That was my assignment, and what we do out in the community and the impact. I'll try to keep this moving quickly so that we don't get bogged down. So I'm sure that most people have some idea and have heard about Cooperative Extension before. One of the things I do find, though, that many people know us for certain programs or certain areas that we focus in, and I want to give you some idea first of how we're organized and why we're able to do what we do out in the community. So where are we? Hang on a minute. This is set up a little different than I've seen. There we go. So I always want to start with our mission statement. Cooperative Extension is an organization. It's educationally based. It serves youth, families, farmers, and communities using research-based knowledge for practical application and lifelong learning. One of the things to keep in mind is that the people we serve are the residents and the businesses out in the community. That's what we were created to do. They are our members. We are a membership organization, and I'm going to talk in a few minutes about how uniquely we're organized and why we're able to do what we do. We do not have degree programs. As I said, we work directly with businesses and individuals out there to provide research from our land-grant college that we're affiliated with, Cornell, which is in our name, but also we have a tie to every land-grant university in the United States in terms of putting that research out into the community. We provide direct technical assistance and education, essentially sitting at the kitchen table in workshops and assisting other community-based organizations out there. So how are we organized? We're a uniquely organized public entity. We are subject to the open meetings law based on how we're organized. You may not know this, but the county created us a little over 100 years ago. County Board of Supervisors. We are one of a handful of organizations that the county did create, and we operate by virtue of the fact that you did create us. The law that we are governed under is County Law 224. If you're ever interested, it's an interesting read, yeah, go ahead. But I will tell you that it sets out a very set of unique partnerships that allows us to work directly with the county, Cornell University, New York State, and USDA, unlike any organization out there. It is a very unique piece of legislation. So, what are we? We are a membership organization. I have a board of directors. We are also an unincorporated nonprofit. We have 501c3 status, which means we can take donations. We're also considered a subordinate government agency of the state of New York that works with the county and USDA. And so when we're applying for grants and contracts out there that may be available to different agencies and you want to check the box off, we can be any of these entities and be able to leverage our money and apply for those funds. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So what does all that mean? We have access to world-class information, research-based, through Cornell University. If you're not familiar with it, I won't go into it tonight, but the land grant system in New York State is Cornell University, but there is a land grant college in every state in the United States, and so we have access to all that research through Cornell University at any one of those 50 institutions. And our mission is to push it out into the community. We have the ability to leverage the core funding from the county, state, and federal government. It avails us the opportunity to provide relative hands-on expertise in multiple subject matter areas based on local community needs. 100 years ago, the community was starved for information. Today, we're inundated with information. And we get many calls, we meet with many people who come to us and say, I need to know that it's backed by research. I need to know that it's the right information. You can get a lot of information off the internet, but you don't really know where it comes from. Every bit of information that we put out is backed by research. It comes through the land grant system. Our legislation allows us to uniquely provide high-skilled expertise deployed locally. What I mean by that is one of the other benefits, our partnership with the state of New York, they provide to us, Cooperative Extension, a full state benefit package to our employees at no cost to Cooperative Extension. That's a pretty significant ability to be able to go out and hire somebody and use $1 to pay for their services, if you will, hire them, but not have to pay for any of those benefits. That's the match that the state provides. The county doesn't even get that benefit. Pardon? I'll address that in a minute as to why we can't. All right, so what are the primary program areas that we function in? This is right out of County Law 224. It's pretty broad. Agriculture, community and economic vitality, environment, engineering, energy, nutrition, healthy families, youth development. It's a pretty broad group of subject matter areas, and it's written purposely for that. So we've had a long history working in cooperative, or in Jefferson County, working through the Cooperative Extension System. As I said, we started in 1912, but we've essentially grown with the community. And our programs have evolved over the years. Some of them, agriculture and youth development, we started with those. We're still very much involved in those. And the county agreement that we have lays out that we primarily use your money to support those activities in the county. We have leveraged the money, however, and we've grown into areas that have allowed us to serve the community beyond that. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that we receive $667,000 currently from the county. As I said, we've leveraged that. Our annual budget at this point is about $7 million. So basically 80% of our money comes from outside grants and contracts. That was a business model that our board of directors started many years ago. They recognized that core funding, which is essentially the county, the state, and the federal money, would not sustain the organization over the long haul and serve the residents the way we felt anyway they needed to be served over the long haul. So in terms of leverage, we turn $667,000 into $7 million on a regular basis. In terms of the areas that we focus in, we operate under a constitution. As I said, we have a board of directors, and we have advisory committees that are made up through our constitution of community citizens who essentially set the local priorities as the subject matter areas that we focus on. Agriculture is certainly one. Youth development is another. Family life skills, which includes parenting, nutrition, energy. Any and all those programs are looked at every year and determined whether we should focus on them. One of the areas that Cornell Cooperative Extension of Jefferson County has focused significantly on in the last 30 years and evolved into, no surprise, is military families. We have an agreement with Fort Drum. It is a recently reorganized agreement. Some of you may have attended about a year ago at Fort Drum an event that they called public-public partnerships. Okay? That's a unique piece of legislation that the service branches are looking to form partnerships with governmental agencies. We are a subordinate governmental agency. And so we were able to put together an agreement that's evolved over 20 years. We've We've had a 20-year relationship with Fort Drum. We have 20 staff people that work out at Army Community Services providing family life skills education for soldiers and families out there. We do that better than Fort Drum does it. That's why they like us there. And they pay the full cost of that, and we provide the research-based education through Cornell University to do that. And it's everything from deploying, redeploying, to budgeting, to parenting, to nutrition education for all military families that use ACS's services out there. Okay? The other thing I wanted to point out is that we've evolved many of our programs over the years. And so agriculture, it's still one of our flagship programs in this county. No secret the ag industry is significant in this county. Is it changing? Yes. Have we changed with the times? Absolutely. I did want to tell you, though, that we consider ourselves the technical assistance boots on the ground. And when I say boots on the ground, I mean we go out and we meet regularly with farmers and producers in the field, in the barns, at the kitchen table. No secret, the dairy industry right now is probably, and still continues to be, one of the largest sectors of agriculture in this county. It's important. It has its challenges right now. And there are a lot of conversations that are taking place with our farm business management people, our field crops people, and our dairy educators at the kitchen table trying to deal with some of the challenges that are out there. In addition to that, we provide support with food systems, value-added agriculture, as well as any of the other emerging areas of agriculture. One of the challenges that we have in terms of being able to grow the ag areas that we have is that we don't want to divert any of the resources that we currently have in ag to other emerging areas. We need to continue supporting what we have, but we need to continue growing it so that there are other opportunities out there. And so we've been able to form some unique business models out there where we're sharing high-level expertise across the region now to be able to stretch the dollars farther, to be able to hit more areas of agriculture across the six-county region. So we have a regional ag team that works with our local staff and in turn works with Cornell University. It's a pretty efficient way to be able to share high-level, master's-level people. In terms of youth development, no secret, our flagship program is the 4-H program. It's been around for more than 100 years. Many of you may have been involved in it over time. One of the things that our business model has focused on is taking 4-H to the next level in this county. And so we've taken the 4-H curriculum, and there's many of them, everything from, you may be familiar with livestock, but there are curriculum on motors, on drones, on woodworking. We've taken that into the schools in the form of after-school programs. Schools are not really interested in staffing the after-school programs. They're interested in the regular school day. What after-school isn't is daycare. What after-school programs are is about increasing academic achievement in the kids that participate in it. That's educationally based. That's what we do. We do activity-based programming after school. And we've become pretty good at it. We've applied for outside grants to do that through the state and through the federal government. There's no county dollars involved in these programs. It's all state and federally funded. To date, we have over 900 kids in the county involved in after-school programming. And so we've significantly leveraged those dollars, and all of them are receiving programming through the 4-H program. One of the programs I wanted to point out real quickly that was rather unique this year, and it was by the sheer number of kids that we have involved in this program. We had an opportunity to participate in a program called the Student Space Flight Experiment Program. Essentially, in a nutshell, you put together teams of kids, 3 and 4. They learned what research projects were about. They learned what the new emerging space programs are about. Kids are getting real interested in space and space science and space flight again. We kind of went through an era, I think, over time where, for some of us in the room, we remember being glued to the television during the Apollo missions. That kind of went by the wayside until recently. More and more young kids are getting involved in that again. This allowed teams of kids to put forth a research project that got evaluated by a group of individuals to select one project out of 50. that would then be sent on to a national competition. The guarantee was that one of the teams in Jefferson County of kids would be able to finish their research project. It would be sent up to the International Space Station with that final piece of research, and them working with the International Space Station to do it. What a great opportunity for all of those kids that were participating in it. And so that group of kids has been selected. I wish I had a picture of them tonight. They were so excited when they were selected because they know that they're going to be able to work with Cornell University and a group that will send their final project up, and the research will be conducted on the level of rust and how its effect is different in space compared to what it is here in our atmosphere. And all 4 of those kids will be involved in it every step of the way, which will allow the school to be involved in it as well. And that's all through the after-school program. The other thing I wanted to mention was that in terms of impact, I do have, and I will pass out quickly, it's hot off the press. As you know, we put out an annual report. We're required to under County Law 224. We have to give an annual report to the county. Just in terms of impact overall, we completed 460 ag visits last year in the county. We conducted 61 workshops that included somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,100 participants in the ag and natural resource area. I mentioned earlier that we have 900 kids involved in our after-school programs. We ran several 4-H programs that you might be familiar with: Ag Extravaganza, Home and Farm Safety, the Dairy Expo we participate in every year. We had over 15,000 youth go through our programs last year collectively. Out of those 5,400 were focused on agriculture. We feel it's really important for the next generation to understand agriculture and food systems because it's changing fast, and we have a whole generation now or two that don't know enough about where their food is grown and what it's about. And so the more we can do that with younger kids, the better off we're going to be, because they're the next generation that's going to step into the ag industry. In terms of impact out at Fort Drum, I'll just point out that based on our work with Army Community Services, there are several thousand soldiers and families that go through ACS every year. And it is mainly our 20 employees that are working with those military families to do that. Finally, I just wanted to again thank you for the opportunity, and I certainly wanted to thank you for the support that you give us every year. Proud of the organization I work for. I said I've been there 7.5 years. The board is a delight to work with, and I'm sure, as all of you know, what makes the job even better is the staff that you work with, and I do have a great staff, and I appreciate all the work that they do. Wanted to point out, we just in terms of size, just so you know, we have about 120 employees. About half of those work half-time for the after-school program. The other 60 are full-time, working for the other areas that I talked about. Be happy to take questions.
Kevin, first of all, I'd like to state I'm disappointed that a couple of legislators are not here because they're the ones in question of authorized agencies. You did a great job. It's a great board to be a member of. Everyone is a player, and I appreciate that. And might you just give a quick plug for Camp Wabasso?
I can.
Because some of the people here have children who could be counselors and children who could be attending the camp. It's a great place not just for children, but also for adults or a family. If a family wants to rent part of the camp, you can do that. It's very inexpensive. It's a great time. And if you haven't been to camp, as our former legislator Bob Boyce always said, it's 4-H Camp Wabasso.
It is 4-H Camp Wabasso.
And it's a marvelous place, and if you haven't been there in a few years, check it out. It's beautiful.
So thank you for asking. I didn't want to take up a lot more time, but within our 4-H youth development area, we own the only residential summer camp left in Jefferson County, 4-H Camp Wabasso. If you aren't familiar where it is, it's located out in the town of Redwood. on Millsite Lake. Pardon? Town of Teresa. Mailing address Redwood. Right. And so be careful if you use the Google Maps. It'll take you not exactly to the right place out there, so we'll give you directions. But as Carolyn said, the camp was purchased in the 1950s. Obviously, it's been enhanced significantly over the years. When you stand on the rec field at 4-H Camp Wabasa, you would swear you were standing in the Adirondacks. Okay? The only thing that suggests that there might be anything close to you in terms of civilization, if you look all the way across Millsite Lake, you can see the water tower in Redwood. So it does give you some idea that something's close by. But we operate camp out there 6 weeks out of the year. In the shoulder seasons, we take somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 to 800 kids out there for what we call camp school days. The schools bring them out for field trips. And as Carolyn said, lots of other programming done out there in an environmental setting that really is a great place for kids to just get rid of the electronics and experience the outdoors, sometimes for the first time going away for a week of camp in that fashion.
Further questions for the Executive Director? Kevin, I'd like to thank you for your enthusiasm, for your information. I mean, that's an excellent presentation, and what you're doing, I mean, the information about how Cornell Cooperative Extension exists is interesting, but the piece about the kids is just so human and so important to think that opportunity is coming to young people in our county through Cornell Cooperative Extension. And the things that the last thing you just said about get the screens or get the electronics away, give them a chance to see the world, the whole space program. I mean, I'm a Mercury enthusiast, not just Apollo.
Well, and frankly, one of the things that's very important to us are the partnerships that we have out in the community. If we didn't have the partnerships that we have, we couldn't accomplish what we do. And there are many good organizations out there that leverage their resources with us, and we can accomplish a lot together.
If there's nothing further, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For our second presentation this evening, it's the Association Executive Director Olivia Kasum Amadou for the Association for the Blind. Executive Director.
One moment. The presentation is a little bit different. I'm not doing PowerPoint. I'm just going to put this here as a visual because I'm talking about vision, so everything tonight will be visual.
I'm in the dark a lot, so it doesn't matter.
Pandora's box. Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me here. I was actually elated to have this opportunity to be here tonight because the last time I was here, I was feeling really sick, and I did not present myself as well as I would have liked to that night, but I am glad to be here. I want to give you a little bit of history about the organization. In 1918, there was a Watertown businessman by the name of M.E. Avery. This is Mr. Avery. You'll see his picture in our Vision Rehabilitation Center. He was also, in addition to a businessman, he was actually a superintendent here in the school system, along with Mrs. Borsey, who was a public nurse here in the Watertown school system. And they got together after hearing a presentation from the Watertown Rotary Club to talk about what could they do to help people who were blind or visually impaired in this community. And his friends called him Gene. And so he would always go out and after he heard the presentation, he thought, wow, I really need to do something to help advance the services that we provide. So he got together and they formed the organization, which at that time was known as the Watertown Association for the Blind. So one of the things that we're really proud about is that this year we will celebrate 100 years of service in Jefferson County. So I don't think a lot of people know that, but we're really proud of that. So the work of the Early Association was assisted from time to time by local business people. I have a lot of receipts from the community chest and some of the memorabilia that we have where they were awarded $300 or $400, and it kept going up to $1,000, and so they were pulling in big money by that time. And so it was real important to them. But Gene was a gentleman who was pretty low-key, people said, but he always wore a bandana. And when he would go out asking for things, he wore the bandana around his head, but he would pull it down over his eyes, and he would say, "How would you like to go around being blind all the time?" And they said people fell for it, and whatever he asked for, they just gave it to him. So that's another tactic that they used to raise money during those days. So after the early work in the community, they expanded to Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties, and they changed the name. And then today we're known as the Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired of Northern New York. And we are fortunate enough, again, to continue our services here in Jefferson County, and we're opening our new Vision Rehabilitation Center that we're very proud of. It is the only Vision Rehabilitation Center in the North Country. Before we opened this Vision Center, our clients had to travel to Utica, Syracuse, or Rochester to receive the services that we're providing. So we want you all to please join us on Thursday afternoon, 3:30 to 4:30 is our reception, and 4:30 to 5 is our ribbon cutting ceremony for this facility. So we will also be presented a citation from the New York State Commission for the Blind for this amazing feat that we have accomplished here in Jefferson County, and so I hope you all will share in that joy of having this in our community. According to the report in Health Day News in 2016, blindness is what many Americans fear the most. If you ask them what things do they care about, they will let you know that becoming blind and losing their independence and their quality of life is very important to them. So what makes our nonprofit so important to our clients? I couldn't help but wonder if you would ask me that question if you had a heart attack and I said, how important is your cardiologist to you? The same medical model of rehabilitation that you would receive for your heart attack, you would receive for your vision. A lot of people don't think about that because vision is a low incidence disability, but it has the same medical model as getting any other type of treatment. You can lose your vision for any number of reasons. You could have an accident. It could be from war. It could be from an injury related to a car accident or a motorcycle accident. You could have one of the silent eye diseases, such as glaucoma, that you may not have any warning about, and all of a sudden your vision is impaired. You could just walk out of here tonight, and all of a sudden you may not be able to see anymore because you may not have gone and had that yearly eye exam, or you had that yearly eye exam and your doctor diagnosed you with the eye disease. So what happens after you're diagnosed with that eye disease? You have your optometrist who can do your exam. You have your ophthalmologist who is the medical professional who can perform surgery. But once you're done there, that doesn't end because now you have to deal with the impact of your vision loss. You have to deal with where do I go from here? Am I losing my independence? Am I losing my mind? So this is where the Vision Rehabilitation Center really makes a huge impact. One of the biggest things we hear is that, what am I going to do? I feel so alone now. I'm going through depression. So counseling is one of the big things that we do offer, not just for the person who is having the vision loss, but for the entire family, because oftentimes that person could be the breadwinner for the family. That person could be the caretaker or the person that everyone goes to when there's an issue in the family, and all of a sudden now this person may not be able to drive anymore. They may not be able to prepare meals anymore. And so it has a huge impact on the entire family. Counseling is very important, and this is one of the services that we will offer at the Vision Rehabilitation Center. So once we bring our clients in and we start the counseling process, we actually do an assessment to determine where they are in their vision loss. how can we save the residual vision that they have, work with that vision to still help them maintain their quality of life and their independence? Because we want people to know that there is life after vision loss and that they don't have to isolate themselves and stay inside. Some of the things that we use. People say, I can't find or see my remote anymore. This is one of the things that we can provide for a client. This is our large button remote. For our clients who use Braille, we have the Braille XL. This item costs about $4,000. We are not able to purchase this for our clients, but we do have a program that it can be funded for a 3% loan from the state of New York. We have what's called the Ruby, which is a portable CCTV. So most people have seen the large CCTV that looks like a TV, and you have to put your paper underneath. This can sit right on top of your paper. It can go in your purse or in a pocket, and you can take that with you. We have magnifiers. Every person that we see is dealing with some type of loss where they need a magnification device. This is what we call a pocket magnifier, and this is a stand magnifier, meaning that it's on the long handle. It does not stand up. And we have to actually teach our clients how to use this magnifier. Most of them want to go back and forth like this on the paper, but in fact it goes down on the sheet of paper. Most people will run to Walmart or Walgreens and buy, and I know you've all seen those huge magnifiers thinking, oh my goodness, I can see the whole page. The key to that is the smaller the magnifier, the more powerful it is. So it's not the correct thing to go buy that huge magnifier at Walgreens. Now, for our children, do they still want to participate in recreation? Of course they do. So if they want to play basketball, you hear the bell? The ball is beeping because it can beep or it can have bells in it because the children still want to participate as active members of their community. Most of the time, all of our clients need a pair of sunglasses. The sun is more damaging to their eyes than before any other time, and even all of us at all times. These have cover here and on the side, so no sun is getting in. Now, how do you tell the time? You can't see the clock anymore. It's difficult. So we have what's called talking watches. And you push one button, and it tells you what time it is. Okay? And, of course, we have our books, the telephone. Can't see your dials on the phone anymore. We have these large button telephones that people can use. We have our books in Braille. We have to pay to have our books Braille. These are not free. We pay for that. We have a small book here for children. We have a children's area. And these books cost to have them Braille as well. A lot of our seniors love to play bingo. So we have the large bingo cards. They're in Braille and they're in large print. And we have our large print calendars that we run out of every year because our clients start calling around September and October saying, please put me on the list. I like this. I can write my appointments in it, and I can see the dates on this calendar. And probably a couple of the last things. TV glasses. Our clients love these because the TV up there comes right here in my face. And these glasses are adjustable on the sides, and they can pull that TV screen right in front of them where they're sitting. And, of course, everyone recognizes the cane, which lets you know that a person is visually impaired or has some type of low vision. Can our clients see? Some of them can, even though they are legally blind. It's just a number. It doesn't mean that they don't have light perception or that they can't have some type of vision left. So what does all this mean? These are not free. They cost money. The average pair of sunglasses is $29. One of these magnifiers can be $49 or higher. If it has the light in it, most people need the light because they need the extra lighting to help them. A talking watch costs starting around $39 for a basic watch. This one was more. It's not considered basic. It's pretty fancy, okay? The pocket magnifiers, again, $39, $49 a piece. The cane we get free from the Lions Club. Thank goodness to the club. They give one free cane per year, so we don't have to pay for that. That basketball is about $59. The Braille card, the Braille bingo card, is $9 for one card. So to say all of this is that although our organization is undergoing a huge change, we have a very small operating budget, which is about $300,000. Now, if you take that and you start looking at salaries added into that with the expenses, we spend an average of $60 per client, and that's based on this assessment that I will do to determine what their needs are. We have to ask them this question: what is the most significant need that you have today? What is the biggest problem for you in order for you to continue to do your daily living tasks? And practically every person wants a magnifier because they can't see anymore to read. And so at that point, we can get the magnifier. They can't see the clock. Of course, we want to know what time it is. We just take it for granted. We look at our watch. We look at the clock. So we always try to get them a talking watch. If they're living alone, then we definitely want them to have a telephone with a large button so that they could see if they should have an emergency and need to dial out on the phone or contact a family member. So we try to make it person-centered for each client so that we do provide them with the basic things that they need. Now, in the county area here, which we serve the Tri-County area, we have over 3,000 blind or visually impaired individuals living in Jefferson County, between Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence, And that is information that we have received from the New York State Commission for the Blind. Last year, and I just got here in June of last year, but we had over 300 clients that had been served prior to my arrival within that year's time. Now, last week alone, I took in 6 new cases. So if we're now advertising this Vision Rehabilitation Center and continuing to increase our services, then we're going to increase the number of clients that are coming in. So it's very important for us to continue to work with all of our partners, which I have to boast on the Volunteer Transportation Center because they are a big partner of ours. They get our clients to our support groups. We have 5 support groups. And I tell you, last week we had 2 groups there, and they didn't want to leave the center. They had such a wonderful time. Those are the things that we can really brag about of how our clients feel. Most of them were on walkers. Some were in wheelchairs. Some were totally blind. Some had a little bit of vision. But they had a great time having breakfast and coffee and talking and socializing, because in this weather here in northern New York, it's not the best weather for our clients to get out in, because even as sighted people, we fall and get hurt in different things. So for our clients, it's even more dangerous. So they don't get out often, and so it meant a lot for them to be there. We're having quilting classes. We're having apps classes on the iPhone and the Android phone. We have a computer lab in our New Vision Center where clients can come in and use the CCTVs. They can get computer classes. A lot of people now like to email and be in touch with the grandchildren and get pictures and different things. We have a pre-vocational lab in there where we teach work skills. We have a program called The World of Work, and this is for our young people. We start at the age of 8 years old working with young people in transition so that they can learn about the importance of work. We don't want them to rely on that disability check that they may get. We want them to know that we are promoting independence and inclusion in the community for them to be out among their sighted peers and be competitive in the workplace and enjoy living a higher quality of life. We also have an aids and appliance store, so all of these items that I've shown you tonight, we also sell these items 10% discount to our clients once they have lost an item because we just don't have the money to replace those. We do fundraising. We get grants. We did get a wonderful contract with the New York State Commission for the Blind. It's $548,000. It's a 5-year contract. And, of course, grants from the Line Foundation gave us our startup funding for the Vision Rehabilitation Center. So we have members that send us donations every month, corporate sponsors who do a lot of things for us. We get a lot of in-kind support. So we're really grateful to the community. And the last thing I want to say is that the Vision Center belongs to this community because I cannot tell you how many calls I received from our clients that came in that center with low vision and some with no vision. And they wanted to know what they could do to help because they were so happy that they no longer have to travel to Utica and Syracuse and Rochester to get those services that they are here. We had donations of furniture, equipment, and even the work that we had to do in there. We had a church that sent their ministry over, the members, the men who do carpeting. They came in and did work for us. So this is a community project. We're excited about it, and I hope to see you all at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. And stay tuned and keep up with what the Association for the Blind is doing. Oh, we're at what's called the top of the square, 146 Arsenal Street. People tell me it used to be the old Woolworth shopping mall area, and we're in Suite 9. We're over there. And so I'm just excited. I'm glad to be in Northern New York. You know I'm from North Carolina. I don't have a Northern New York accent. but this community has been really great, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity to come here tonight. Are there any questions?
Any questions for the Executive Director? Legislator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple questions. What's your client demographics look like?
The client demographics, most of our clients are over the age of 55 right now. And I will say that about 85% of our clients are in that age bracket and older, more of the 65 to probably, we have some clients who are 90 years old, believe it or not. And those are the clients that really, we do the home visits for them, and we go check on them monthly, and we also call them, you know, and provide things. We are just adding children and youth. We do have a youth peer support group that has about 8 children in it now, so that's coming along really well, and they make up the other portion of our clients that we have. And I want to say also, we were fortunate enough to offer 2 jobs to 2 clients who are legally blind. So that was real important for us to be able to show them that they can be independent and inclusive.
As far as the Braille books go, you say that it costs money to be able to make them. So how do you go based on request, from clients request particular books then, and then you order them to be made into Braille? How does that work?
Well, what happens is we do take requests about the books that kids are interested in. If you come to the center, you'll see that we have a children's corner, and we wanted to make that available to all the kids. So we work with the school system, Lafargeville Central School. They have a Brailleist there. Now, they were really kind to us, and they did Braille some of our books for free. So we do appreciate that. And otherwise, we do work with there's a library, North Country, at Library Systems. We also work with the Library for the Blind as well. So it just depends, but we wanted to have, you know, a variety of books. The teachers for the visually impaired at BOCES and at Governor School also assisted us in illustrating those books, making them tactile so the kids, the one about geese, for instance, the feathers are there, and the kids can actually feel the feathers on the book, and so it's really good. Yeah, it's exciting. Okay, well, I think we can handle that. All right.
Anything further for the Executive Director? Legislator Doldo.
Just out of curiosity, do you guys visit like Samaritan Summit, Samaritan Keep at all? And
We
the
do.
elderly
We have
there?
a support group that meets at Summit. And actually, I recently ordered some more bingo cards because we have 4 residents there who are blind, and they love to play bingo and hadn't been able to play. So now we have the large cards, and we're going to put someone with them to help them play. So yes, we do go there. That's one of our support groups.
Well, I'd like to thank you for giving us your time this evening. Very interesting presentation. I'd like to editorialize a bit. My mom lived with me for 12 years. She was legally blind, and so we ended up having to get a talking blood glucose monitor.
Glucometer.
Yeah, and scale, talking scale, and all those things when she passed all went to your entity.
Right,
But of course you moved since, so.
Yeah, well, we rely on that a lot, too. We do get a lot of donations of equipment, too. So that's important.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Well, back to the business of finance and rules. I think we still have the minutes of last month to deal with. Any corrections, deletions, additions, anything minutes? They'll stand as presented. And we're on to finance and rules sponsored resolutions.
First resolution this evening is amending the 2019 county budget in relation to Samaritan Senior Village Incorporated.
May I have a motion, please? Legislator Fitzpatrick, Legislator Nabawanek. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Next is authorizing a joint service agreement with the town of Familia for optional county assessment services in the town pursuant to real property tax law 1537.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride. Legislator Drake. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, what I'd like is to have Roxanne and Alex come up or do just a quick update on this matter, because I think it's important for everybody to understand what's taking place with real property and how they're going to start assisting the town of Amelia.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hageman. Thank you for this opportunity, Chairman, honorable members of the Finance and Rules Committee. But I don't think it's really fair for me to follow those 2 organizations. I'm going to talk taxes, and as important as it is to all of us in this room, when you hear people like that talking about Campo Basso and people losing their vision, all of a sudden it doesn't seem that important. But with that said, I want to just briefly update everyone on what is happening right now, just give you a real brief update. I know all of you are somewhat familiar with the background of this. My department is now in the initial stages of contracting with the town of Familia under Real Property Tax Law 1537, which allows a municipality to contract with Jefferson County for all or some of their assessment services. This is something that was a result of the many meetings that you folks were involved in that had to do with consolidation efforts and everything that was involved in the governor's effort for municipalities to look at this. Assessment services seemed to be an area that there was some interest in, and right from the beginning, Supervisor Allen was very interested in this being an initiative that he thought would work well for his town and one that would ultimately be a savings for him. It's not going to be a savings at the front end, but it will definitely ultimately be a savings at the end. What's happening in the assessment field is that the pool of assessors that are currently working in the 22 towns in Jefferson County is that they're aging. A lot of them are getting towards retirement, and for whatever reason, it's a profession that does not have people waiting in the wings to step in when the retirements occur. It's not uncommon for an assessor in Jefferson County to hold the office in multiple towns. In fact, most of the assessors do. But with that said, it does get to the point where there's only a maximum number of parcels that the state of New York would recommend or I would recommend that an assessor take on. You can only be in so many places at the same time. So with that said, not just here, I do want to say a growing trend across the state is entering into this 1537 agreement to have the county step in and, again, either take over the assessment services or some of those. When I say some of them, it might be exemption administration. It might be data collection. Maybe they have an assessor, but the assessor isn't able to do all of the assessment functions. I mean, it can be a cafeteria smorgasbord approach, but across the state, most of the counties have already entered into these agreements. Any of the agreements that have been entered into, they're successful. They're not easy at the beginning. It's somewhat rocky, but it always ends up working out in a good situation. And how could it not? When you are contracting with the county, you're getting, professional expertise. You're getting a support staff, which in the towns, typically an assessor is they're out there working on their own. Best case scenario, they might have an assistant. So you do have more support when you are contracting with the county. There's many counties that are already doing this. One that I would note is Herkimer County. They're a real good example of how this can happen, how it can work. So with that said, the town of Pamelia has found itself in a situation where their equalization rate is dipping every year. It's at 57% now. They have not done a revaluation in 18, 19, 20 years. Their assessor has not kept up with data collection. And what does that mean to us? I mean, we're not all Pamelia residents, but we're all residents of Jefferson County. And what that means to us is that we are picking up the share of tax that should be paid by Pamelia residents. We're picking that up because there's a lot of data out there. There's a lot of new construction. Actually, the town of Pamelia is quite vibrant with physical activity and new construction, and it's just not being picked up. It's not being put on our tax rolls. And that's not fair to the Pamelia residents, but it's not fair to the rest of us in Jefferson County either. So with that said, the town made the decision to terminate their relationship with their town assessor. I don't know if I would say that they made the decision. As it turned out, the supervisor found out that the town assessor was never actually reappointed, and he also was not certified by the state of New York, which is a requirement. So they parted ways, and he looked to us to step in and help out. And I felt obliged to do that. Obviously, it's up to you folks if you decide to pass a resolution for us to enter into the agreement. But even if you didn't, I felt obligated to step in just on an interim basis, if nothing else, because we found out that there were 44 senior citizens in the town who were eligible for the enhanced star exemption, that the assessor had not acted on any of those, and they stood to lose their star exemption. And I think everyone here realizes that these elderly taxpayers, they rely on that. They really do. And that can make the difference if they can stay in their home or if they can't. So it was 2 weeks out because March 1st is taxable status date. That was the deadline that this had to happen. So we've stepped in, we've helped out on a temporary basis, but the town is very interested in contracting with the county for us to do that on a more permanent basis. With that said, I would like to introduce to you folks that may not already know Alex Marchinkoff. He's my real property appraisal technician on my revaluation staff, and he's the person, if we enter into the agreement, that will be considered the town of Pamelia assessor. The 1537 agreement says that the county director does have to choose and assign one person who will be the acting assessor. What does that mean to the county? That means that he will be working in the town part-time. Obviously, he will still continue his duties with Jefferson County. How can this be beneficial to both parties? Well, for one thing, town of Pamelia is willing to pay what they know it's worth to have a professional like Alex to do the work, because they know in the end it will cost them some money on the front of this, but in the end it will save them a lot of money. And it's just the right thing to do for taxpayers. It really is. The injustice that has happened there for many years, I think really needs to be righted, and I hope you folks can support this. I know some of you, like I said, have talked to different people about this. It was talked about many times at these consolidation meetings, but I think this could be the beginning of a trend where we, Real Property Tax Services, can provide a much better product to the towns and in turn generate revenue to offset any costs that, might potentially be incurred, not occurred, or maybe occurred too, I don't know. With that said, I know you're all very busy. I don't want to beleaguer this. I don't want to get into the weeds, but I want to make sure that I may have covered any questions any of you folks may have.
I think that you're right on target with that. Are there questions while we're in discussion for the motion? Are there questions for the director? Maybe you don't have a ball. Oh, would you like to speak? Please, yes.
Just two questions. How many elected assessors are left in the county?
There are only 6 elected, and when I say elected, elected in 3 towns. 2 towns, I'm sorry. 3 assessors in 2 towns. A long time ago, there were many. Thank you, Alex. 3 towns. Town of Lyme, Town of Philadelphia, Town of Worth. I apologize. I forget about Town of Worth. I'm very sorry. Yes. Now see what he's missing? All 3 of those towns still have elected assessors, but that's truly gone by the wayside across the state. Most of them have gone to sole appointed assessors.
Okay. The other thing, and you touch on this, was needing to do a reval. I think you remember that there used to be an incentive for towns to keep it 100% equalization rate. So if you're going into these kind of agreements with townships, who gets that money? Is that still given to the town because they're the ones that are keeping up with the state's demand of 100% equalization,
Mm-hmm.
or is that going to somehow be shared with us?
Mm-hmm. The incentives are still there from the state of New York, but they're not as great as they used to be. Whenever you go into an agreement for a townwide revaluation, in fact, the state won't even guarantee that the monies are there. They give you the impression that it will be there, and it has been, but it's just not as, I'll say, lucrative as it used to be. But if we did the townwide revaluation, those would be discussions, I think, that we would have to have between the town who would get those tax dollars. I think they would be more than willing to share those with us if we're going into this as a joint effort. Yeah, it's certainly not anywhere near that, and I think Alex could speak to this better than me, Mr. Peck.
I believe the last time that we received it, or that the towns were receiving it, it could top out at $250 a parcel, and that it was just a portion of that. The state, whoever did a reval, okay, you did one. This is how much money we have to pay for it. So I think up to $250 and likely less than that.
$250 or $2.50?
$2.50.
I wasn't being flippant. I honestly didn't know. What was $250? Okay.
Yeah, actually, like Mr. Peck said, at one point it was $9 per parcel, but it's now been reduced to $2.50 per parcel. So that incentive is not there. But luckily, knock on wood, most of the towns do understand the importance of doing a revaluation and attempting to keep their equalization rate at 100%, whether you have the actual, financial incentive from New York State or not. Very good question, Mr. Peck.
Anything further for the director? I want to thank you.
Thank you.
And as far as following the other two presentations, it was fine. I mean, it was very informative, very informative.
You should be a motivational speaker, you know that?
Okay, well, we had a motion, we're in discussion, I guess we're ready to vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Third resolution this evening is concurring in the settlement of tax certiorari proceedings and authorizing refund of taxes in connection therewith. This is in regards to McDonald's Corporation. On your desk is a revised resolution simply because it covers a 5-year period. We want to make sure that we would show all 5 years, and the original numbers were inclusive, because it's within the city, was inclusive of the city and the school district. That's a city responsibility, so we backed out those numbers. So on the second page, total payment was in the neighborhood of $51,000, now we're down to about $50,000.
Motion, please. Legislator Drake. Legislator Nabarwanek. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next resolution is urging New York State to fund all costs associated with the new state enacted voting reform implemented at the county level.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride. Legislator Nabarwanek. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Opposing the proposed and amended 2020 executive state budget impacting aid and incentives to municipalities and state cost shifts to counties.
Motion, please. Legislator Nabarwanek. Legislator McBride. I'm sorry. Discussion.
If I might just embellish ever so slightly, first round of numbers, legislators, it may be tweaked in time, but it looks like the gain in terms of the 2% for Jefferson County would be in the neighborhood of $1.5 million. Of course, we have a relationship with the city and the town, so we're responsible for paying that fair share portion of what is now going to be new dollars collected, certainly in the first year. That's ballpark an $800,000 number, which leaves us $700,000. However, the AIM portion of what we would now be responsible for covers $500,000 of that allocation. So the net potential impact, first go around, first flush, out of $1.5 million is $200,000. There will be counties in the state of New York that will be dipping in on the negative side as well. NISAC is preparing an assessment for every county, and they're just kind of working through the process. But just to give you a sense of how that is being impacted in terms of a cost shift, a mandate from the state of New York, in this case Jefferson County, that's how the numbers shake out.
As Legislator Peck referenced earlier this evening, with state legislators from Jefferson County not being in the majority, it's hard to impact this, but I would suggest that any contact you have with those legislators, let them know that this is important to us, assuming we approve the motion. So, did I ask for the motion? Yes, we're in discussion. Well, yes, Chairman.
Oh, yeah. It's getting close to $200,000. Yes.
Cost of the county?
Yes, year one.
I believe we're ready to vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Next resolution is reappoint reappointing members to the Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency. In this case, it would be David Converse.
Motion, please. Legislator Nebelonik, Legislator McBride. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? It is carried.
Reappointing member to the Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency. In this case, it would be Ed Walbrook.
Motion, please. Legislator Drake. Legislator Fitzpatrick, thank you. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, well, now on to the financial resolutions from General Services.
First, reappropriating funds from various unspent grants relative to the Fire and Emergency Management Department and amending the 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride. Legislator Fitzpatrick. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing grant agreement, State Environmental Quality Review Act determination and amending the 2019 county budget in relation to a 2018 Community Development Block Grant Award from New York State Office of Community Renewal.
Motion, please. Legislator Drake. Legislator Nebelonik. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget and capital plan to recognize 2019 revenue from the Fort Dunn Residential Communities Initiative.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride. Legislator Fitzpatrick. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate Metropolitan Planning Organization funding.
Motion, please. Legislator Nebelonik. Legislator McBride. Discussion. Legislator Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as chairman of this particular organization, I guess it's a basic question for administration and whether we should bring it up Thursday. Do we still need to be maintaining that fund for them at this point? Or are we kind of unknown on that?
Yeah, it's been pretty much paid down. This is for the planning consultant, and it's about $32,000. And my guess is by the end of the first quarter of this year, it will all be spent.
Okay.
That'll be it.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget in relation to law enforcement.
Motion, please. Legislator Fitzpatrick, Legislator Nebelonik. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Reappropriating funds from various unspent traffic safety committee grants relative to the Sheriff's Department and amending the 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride, Legislator Fitzpatrick. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Reappropriating funds from various unspent Homeland Security grants relative to the Sheriff's Department and amending the 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride, Legislator Nebelonik. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing fiscal year 2017 Operation Stone Garden Grant Agreement and amending the 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
Motion, please. Legislator Fitzpatrick, Legislator Nebelonik. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution sponsored by the Health and Human Services Committee.
First is amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate district funding for the Office of Aging.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride, Legislator Fitzpatrick. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate funds and accepting additional 2019 funding for Veterans Peer Support Program.
Motion, please. Legislator Nebelonik. Legislator Drake. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate federal Medicaid administration reimbursement for the Community Services Department.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride, Legislator Nebelonik. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate district funding for Community Services Department.
Motion, please. Legislator Nebelonik, Legislator Drake. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
authorizing funding in connection with the New York State Department of Health Local Health Department Performance Incentives Initiative and amending the 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride. Legislator Nabawanek. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. There are informational items, but at this time, I'd like to request a... No?
Why don't we handle the insurance claim?
Oh, insurance claim. Oh, okay. So that would be Director Davis.
Well,
Okay, the informational concern, item, the concern over the insurance claim over $5,000.
We have a claim through the Highway Department for damage done to a motor vehicle. This occurred in January. A Highway Department plow was following a motorist on Coffeen Street, apparently too closely, was unable to stop, rear-ended the motorist. Fortunately, there's no personal injury, but the damage was sufficient enough to cause approximately $5,567 worth of damage to the car. This amount is in excess of what our policies allow us to settle without the permission of this committee. The facts of the claim are really undisputed. Following too closely is one of those matters that the driver of the following vehicle is liable for, so I don't think there's any dispute there. So all we're seeking is this committee's authorization to pay the claim in the amount that I've just specified. We don't require anything further than the assent of the committee at this stage, and the claim can be settled and paid. Are there any questions that I can answer about it?
Nothing for the attorney? Okay. We're content? Can move on. We don't need an action?
No, we should take a quick vote on it, so we're on the record.
So is it a resolution?
No, we're all one.
Well, based on what you just heard, can we have a approval? All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Satisfactory.
Just as a point of clarification, from $0 to $5,000, it's handled more administratively. $5,000 to $10,000 would require finance committee support or approval. Beyond $10,000, then it would actually be a board resolution of action. It's rare that we have that, but on occasion that does occur. Frankly, it's pretty rare to go through this exercise too, but occasionally that also happens. So thank you.
Okay, well, we do have one more item, one more matter, and it's a matter leading to the a matter leading to employment of a particular individual. So I'd ask for a motion to go into an executive session. Legislator Nabawan. Hang a second. Legislator Drake. Is there discussion? Can we have discussion on that? No. Okay, so all in favor? Aye. We're in executive session. We will reconvene for an adjournment.